This is one of the interviews I was honestly most excited for. I was talking to Brigitta a couple weeks ago, and then I realized I'm going to be interviewing in a couple of weeks, and so I have to stop her. I'm going to ask you all the questions now, so we can't do it. But Brigitta is a master NLP trainer. She created the Center for NLP, which is for adults, but she also created a Montessori school. So she created learning for children. She created learning for adults. She's spoken on stages around the world. And welcome. I'm just grateful to be in your presence.
I'm grateful to be here with you guys. Self-love revolution. And I just left the meeting, and the lady during the meeting said, well, how come you're always so positive and you're so wise, and what happened that you became that way? And I said, I gotta go because I'm going to be on the self-love revolution in a half an hour. And she goes, what is that? I want to be on there. I said, just go to my social media and click on the link. And she's like, oh, that's phenomenal. So I am so honored and so excited to be amongst you guys and incredible people, led by Jonathan, and just his incredibly big heart and wise knowledge-based character and person that you are, Jonathan.
Oh, thank you. So let's start there. Let's answer that question. Why or how are you always so positive, and what happened to make you go there to be that person? Because I'm imagining when you were 4, you weren't just born. When you came out of the womb, I imagine you were crying like most of us, right? So yes. So what happened along the way?
I don't know if I was actually crying. I'd have to ask my mom, but I'm pretty sure I did. And this is one phenomenon that I passed on to my youngest daughter. When she is in pain, she laughs. So I think I have conditioned myself, going through challenging times, going through hurtful and painful times, to always see can I find one area that is going to be positive? And it's something that I spoke about in this meeting that I just came out of. There were many times in my life that they were challenging. Like one very specific time that I recall, and there are many specific times. One specific time before we moved to the United States, I have I'm dual citizen. I have 2 passports. I have the German passport and the American passport. And I signed a petition or filed a petition for my husband to get a green card. And I went to my own little cocky self. I went to the US Embassy in Munich, and I said, okay, guys, this is really taking a long time, and we already packed our bags. We're ready to go. We have plans, and we're, ready to change the world in the US. So what's taking so long? Well, I was a little bit too inquisitive, and they didn't like that. So they seized my passport. And I said, you can't seize my passport. And I recall the officer holding his passport in my hand. And he said, who's got your passport right now? And I said, you do. It's my passport. And he goes, so we seized your passport. And then they escorted me out of the embassy. And I remember going in a phone booth and calling my husband. I said, they just took my passport. And he says, they can't just take your passport. Anyway, long story short, I got my passport back, because clearly, there's a happy ending to this. So we were sitting in our little attic bedroom in Christian's, my husband's grandmother's house. And I said, this is a test. This is a test of how bad do we really want this? This is a test from the universe of are we on the right track? And we're going to wait this out, because time's on our side. 4 weeks later, the passport just arrived via FedEx. I had to sign for it via FedEx back. It was just a scare tactic or a test, or however you want to call it. Anyway, I think I have, over the years and years and years of my upbringing, through my parents and through overcoming challenges, I just chose. I always make a conscious decision of, I'm going to see where this is leading, and I'm going to focus on the and if it's just one little particle of good, I'm going to focus on that. That was a long answer.
No, it's such an important answer, because What I find is even when people are in a world of good, they find the one thing that's bad. So people are on vacation and it's the last day of vacation or the day before the last day and like, oh, tomorrow I have to go home, when they're in this beautiful place. But they're focusing on the one thing that isn't right, which is happening tomorrow. And you're saying all we need to do is reverse that.
Yeah. Because if our brain can do that, it can focus on all the things that can be bad and all the things that can go wrong, or oh my gosh, the vacation's coming to an end. We can flip it. It's a choice. We can look at, so let's be grateful. What was the best thing of our vacation? And what can we focus? And funny thing that you say that, Jonathan. Last day on our vacation, I was taking a big fall off my bike. There were a bunch of teenagers that cut my way and our tires met and I was just flying over, the asphalt, skinned my knee, skinned my hand, all of that. I could have just focused on that event. But in the evening, we were sitting down having our last dinner together and we went around, our family and I, we went around. So what was the best thing about this vacation? Mom, laying in the sun with you, being at the beach. That was the best thing. Or having dinner together, or even laughing about, mom taking a big fall off her bike. I mean, we have a choice in any given moment of what we want to focus on and what we're going to, what we want to feel. Do I want to feel discouraged and sad and frustrated, or do I want to feel empowered, happy, and have more of those kind of feelings?
Are there, go ahead.
That takes programming.
That
takes some conditioning, right? That takes creating that habit.
Are there experiences that you've gone through, or maybe other people have gone through, that don't have that one seed of, well, I can look for the good, that it's really such a bad thing that there's no seed? Or is every experience you can always find something out of it?
Oh no, there are many times that I can think back that wasn't that way. So I was bullied in school, and for the longest time I was the victim because I made myself the victim. And it wasn't until I realized, hey, if something's got to change, it's not up to them, teachers, students, friends, it's up to me. And when I realized that I'm in control, well, that changed the whole dynamic, because now it's on me. So what do I do? And it's when the first book, Jonathan, that I read, I was 17, was by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? And I just started to do one thing. And those habits really created who I am today. There were plenty of times where I caught myself feeling pity for myself. Oh, poor me. But that didn't help anything, because no one else had control over changing the situation other than myself.
So what would you tell? So you're with a child, 14, 15, 16, high school, maybe being bullied, feeling, but they really are being bullied. So it is not a good situation. They're being bullied. They're in this situation. What do you tell them to get them out of the victim mode and out of that situation?
Well, you cannot change everyone else's mind about you, right? Bullies will always find some like a weakness, and it might just be a little tiny crack, and they'll put their finger in there and they'll just go and with salt and all of the grossness, and they'll just go in and they'll just poke around. So you got to make a decision. Are you giving them the power to do that? That's the first thing. Now, as a teenager, that's easy said, hard to do, really hard to do. And the bullying came, I wore glasses, I was highly overweight. So I was like, okay, So I'm giving them an opportunity. I'm giving them power over me to make fun of me. So what here in this whole scenario do I have control over? Because I don't have control over them, what they're saying, and or how they are acting towards me, their behavior towards me. But what am I in control of? I'm in control of how I feel. I'm in control of how much power am I allowing them to have over my feelings. Because no one has power over your feelings unless you give them the power. And what can I do to make myself feel better? Because I didn't feel good in my skin. So that was the little crack, right? When I don't feel good, someone that senses that, they'll go in and it'll just sneak in, and they'll put their finger in and they'll make that crack bigger. And it just, now they come with the whole salt shaker, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And the pain gets bigger and bigger and bigger, or stronger. So I started walking the vineyards. I said, okay, so if it's up to me and I want to feel better, I got to do something to make me feel better. Well, what could that be? Well, let me start walking the vineyards. And that's when I started walking the vineyards 5 minutes a day. And out of those 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then I started running, and I started feeling better because I moved my body. I did something to change that feeling. I changed one modality, and the other modalities within me followed that. So I changed from going from sitting down and eating my feelings, like literally eating my feelings, to getting into motion and doing something about it. And out of that, I became more confident. Out of that, I became more assertive. And I said, nope, you do not get to talk to me like that. So all of that played together. And boy, if our kids could learn a little bit more about being that assertive and being unique in who they are, and being okay with being unique in who they are. That's, if we could just model that, we would do a lot of good for our kids.
So is that behind the reason you started the Montessori, or what was behind that?
Yeah, that was a big part. I didn't want my children to be bullied. I said, my children, after I finished high school, I went to university to study social pedagogy and became a teacher, which I never became a teacher. I never went into the teaching field. I just have the diploma, and because I wanted to make a difference. And that's during my studies of education science and social pedagogy, I've learned about Maria Montessori, and I'm like, wait. There is what? And why did I not go to a Montessori school? You mean that in a Montessori school, each child, without judgment, can be exactly who they are. And if reading is not your forte, then you have all the time in the world to become an avid reader. And if math is not your forte, you have all the time in the world to actually hands-on grasp mathematical patterns and strategies. Why did I never go to that school? And that's why I started a Montessori school for my own kids.
Yeah. So here's one of the things that fascinates me about Montessori, but also creates a question for me. So for those that don't know some of the history of Montessori, Montessori was created for people that didn't have education in Italy. They couldn't afford education. It was created for the poor people. Now, full disclosure, my son, he went to public school for kindergarten, did not work out. So we are sending him to a Montessori. And I'm the son of 2 public school teachers. So part of me really believes in the public school system, but I also had to do what was best for him. And Montessori has become a place of, hey, I'm lucky enough to be able to do it. Great. So my question is there a way that we can bring this Montessori understanding, what you say, everyone can be valued for who they are, not just those of us that can afford it, but how do we get this into the mainstream world so that all of us can experience this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I have helped trained teachers that have then brought the particles of the,
Oh no, oh no.
where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Okay.
There you are. Okay, you're back.
There we go. Okay. I was like, ooh, what happened? That brought particles of the Montessori methodology into their public school classroom, where then the director marched in and said, no, this is not working. We're not doing this. And it got completely shut down and the teachers were crushed. So it starts with a mindset, right? It starts with a mindset of, first of all, not every child fits in a box. There are different boxes. Some are rectangular, some are square, some are rectangular, some are odd shaped, some are hexagon shaped, some are round, some are cylinders, whatever you have. But let's not put, and I said that earlier this morning in a training, we try as humans, we try to simplify humans. We try to simplify our human behavior. We're not simplistic creatures. We have tendencies to want to do that, but at the end of the day, let's appreciate who we are as individuals. And I think our school system has not done a good enough job to appreciate the individual person, the individual child, or the individual parent. But can we bring aspects? Can we bring a mindset of appreciation minus judgment or projection into our teacher education? That's where it would begin. So it can then ripple into the classroom and onto our students.
Wow, everyone write that down. Appreciation minus judgment. Wow, that's powerful. Sorry, I just got into my own head and that, yeah, that one I need to stick. Appreciation minus judgment. So I got into that zone because education is just a real passion of mine and important. But I do want to get into the NLP side of things for those of us that can't go to the Montessori's anymore because we're too old. So you know, a lot of us have heard these initials thrown around, but we have no idea what it really is. So what is NLP? Why do we care? Why is it important? And how can it help us?
Yeah, those are great questions. So NLP, 3 words make one big phrase. Neuro, our brain, our operating system. Linguistic, our communication. Verbal and nonverbal, programming our behavior, the patterns of our behavior. So you say, oh, programming, that's manipulation. Well, honestly, you guys have programmed yourself all day, all year, all your life long. TV programs have programmed you. That's why they're called TV or radio programs. There's programming in place. Your mind chatter is programming you to buy into this thinking that you have, and we all have it at some point. So the programming part is what really gets a lot of people where they go, oh, it's manipulation. And that's what I like to say about this. And I am very, very passionate what I'm about to say. The difference between impact and manipulation is the intent behind it. And that's it. And I'm going to say that again. The difference between impact and manipulation is the intention behind it. And that's it. So be very mindful when you're learning about things like neurostrategies, neuroscience, neuro-linguistic programming, that you are amongst people that are intentional to create win-win-wins, a win for you, a win for them, and a win for the greater good. That's what a win for Jonathan, a win for Brigitta, and a win for the self-love revolution. A win for the parent, a win for the teacher, and a win for the whole school. There's always that third win that has an impact, or that should have an impact on what we're doing. And when it's only one win, then it's coming out of ego and it's manipulation. Buy my service, buy my product so I can make money. Well, I don't really need it. I don't care. Buy it now, right? Doesn't serve the person, but somehow they get, sucked into it, to buying it. don't need it. So it doesn't, there's two wins missing. So neuro-linguistic programming, your brain feeds your communication, may it be verbal or nonverbal, that then in return has an impact on your behavior, on my own behavior, and on the person's behavior that is in my care, that is my client that I'm talking to, that is perhaps my spouse, my partner, my kids, family member. So that was the first question. The second question was, Jonathan, what was the second question?
I know, I threw them all in there, right? Why is it important, and how can it benefit us?
Yeah. NLP is the meta program of our communication. The words that we speak is something that we have learned, of how we form them, of how we form our phrases, our sentences. It is what we have learned. But when we can be intentional in communicating and truly comprehend, communication is one thing, comprehension of what the other person is saying, that goes deeper on a meta level of what is the mindset, what is the frame of mind that's driving that communication, that gives us an immediate insight into what that one specific person that we're talking to is made up of, or what they're driven by, or what experiences, what memories, culture they are driven by, or that are programmed by. So when we realize and when we can comprehend of what people are saying, not just the words, but the levels beneath the words, then we can actually meet them where they're at, on their level, in their model of the world, and communicate to their needs, not communicate out of my needs. What we're learning, in communication is I am just spitting out words, and I'm going to see what sticks.
So in the way I teach self-love, it has to do with how we interact with others, but it always starts with how we interact with ourselves, what we say to ourselves. So is NLP about how we interact with ourselves, or is it more how we interact with others? Or is it both, or am I missing something?
The answer is yes. So first, everything is a projection. What I said earlier, when we are judging someone, we're judging out of a projection, because we can only see hatred when we have hatred within us. We can only see frustration in someone else when we have frustration within ourselves. A colorblind person cannot see blue in my jacket if they don't know what blue looks like. So that's where the projection comes from. So it is necessary first for me to understand my model of the world, for me to understand what am I made of, what are my limitations in my mindset, what are my limitations in my communication, how does it show up in my communication? And when I learn that, then I can have an impact in the person that I'm communicating with, one-to-one or one-to-many. One of the laws of NLP states that if you're not receiving the results that you want, it has nothing to do with the other person. You've got to go back and check in with your thoughts. You got to check in with your mindset. And therefore, you got to check in with, how are you communicating? What are the messages that you're sending out? And are they intentional? So yes, the answer is yes on both ends. It has a lot to do with yourself first, and then it has everything to do with how you're communicating with other people.
So if I'm not getting the results I want, or someone here with us today isn't getting the results that they want, and obviously I know there's a whole course and the whole training, but is there a starting point? Is there somewhere they can begin today, where they can start the process to lead them in the direction of getting what they want?
Yeah, become aware. So see what triggers. If I'll give you an example. One of my new clients that just started with me, he came to me with exactly that. He says, I don't know where to begin. And I said, well, it starts with awareness. So I'd like for you to become aware of what's triggering you and what's like, what's the biggest challenge that you have right now. So we came back to the first coaching call and he says anger issues. I said, okay, so what do they look like? What do they sound like? What is it, how does it make you feel? And he gave me several experiences just from recent interactions that he had, and we looked for the trigger. So I had him become aware of what triggers him, and then what comes after that trigger. It's almost like, have you ever seen those dominoes that are lined up, and you push one domino over and suddenly it just goes into this whole, one domino after another kind of tips over? That triggers that first domino. And if you don't like the direction or the picture that whole domino makeup is making, then it's up to you to create a boundary or interrupt that pattern of behavior, so that next domino, when you're tipping over, the next domino goes in a different direction. So, but before you can change the whole picture of the domino tipping over, you got to become aware of what's that first domino, what makes you tip over. And when you realize that and you see where this is going, and he says it never ends well, right? He burns bridges with the people that he's wanting to do business with or wanting to have a relationship with. At the end of the day, it's all relationships. I said, okay, so what do you want? He says, I want to be calm when I'm being triggered. Aha, so calmness is the new result, not getting angry and then burning bridges, not literal, but you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And we created a new domino pattern for him. And now we're testing it. And he came back. It was on a coaching call this Wednesday. And he came back and he goes, it's so beautiful when I can just realize, oh, my emotions are getting high. I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to breathe for 3 breaths. And I'm going to remember what my new outcome is. And that will help me to be more strategic in my communication. But before you can do that, you got to be aware of what that trigger is.
So identify the trigger, know what result you want is, and create the space between the trigger, find that pause, and remember the result.
Boom.
That's big. Why is it so hard? It's so simple the way you say it, right? It's huge, and it's so, find the trigger. You know a trigger. The person says something, you get pissed off. It happens every day. Okay, I know the trigger. It's why is something so simple so hard?
Because again, we're complex humans. We try to simplify it, and we're so in it, right? I have coaches myself. I am a damn good coach. I have coaches myself because I find myself in my own little woods and I don't see the forest for the trees. And I'm like, where do I go? I know how to do this, but why is it so hard for me? Why is not a good question. Who can help me with this? Where can I start? What can I do right now? Those are much better questions to ask.
Okay, I have a million more questions, but I know we've been here a little bit, so I'm going to put us into gallery mode, and I just want to know, does anyone else have questions for Brigitta about the journey from Germany to Montessori to NLP, or about NLP? I know there was a lot of stuff there. All right, well,
what a great group of people.
It's been a phenomenal day, and there's been a ton of learning. All right, I'm going to ask you one last question, and then we're going to go to Carrie Ann to interview. So that's the starting point. What would you say is the most important strategy to know about NLP?
That you have choice. You always have a choice. No matter how much you think you're standing with your back against the wall, or even worse, with your head against the wall where you don't see anything else, take a step back. You have a choice.
Hmm. So powerful. And I'm gonna put a link in here. If you want the NLP success laws checklist. So you know, this is the whole checklist, right?
Yes.
Now, to be clear, it's a starting point, right? This is all starting points, and there's a lot in the NLP world, and I couldn't tell you all of it because I'm just at the beginnings dancing as well. But I've seen the checklist, and it's an amazing place to start. So I recommend clicking on that link, getting that. Any final word, Brigitta, that we just have to know before you leave?
Man, there's so many words I have to say. I think the final word that I want to say is maintain flexible, not necessarily in your body, of course, in your body, but maintain flexible in your thoughts, maintain flexible in your behavior, and that will give you the choice that you need.
Brigitta, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you.
I am so grateful for you, Jonathan, and for the entire group. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you so much, Brigitta.